Katt Williams was in the middle of filming his biggest comedy special when he heard someone crying in the back of the audience. Against everyone's advice, he stopped the taping, walked off stage, and what he discovered would prove that some things are more important than fame and money. The Fox Theater in Atlanta was electric with anticipation as nearly 4,500 comedy. Fans packed every seat for what was being billed as Katt Williams' triumphant return to HBO. After years of personal struggles and canceled shows, this special, titled Phoenix Rising, was meant to mark his comeback to the top of the comedy world. The production was massive. 12 cameras captured every angle. A full lighting crew had spent 2 days perfecting the setup, and HBO. Executives filled the very important persons section, ready to witness what they hoped would be comedy gold. This wasn't just another show. It was Katt's chance to prove he was still one of the greatest comedians alive. "Ladies and gentlemen," the announcer's voice boomed through the historic theater, "please welcome the one and only Katt Williams." The crowd erupted as Katt bounded onto the stage in his signature style, sharp black suit, perfectly groomed hair, and that unmistakable energy that had made him a star. The applause was deafening, a wall of sound that seemed to shake the century-old building. "Atlanta!" Katt shouted into the microphone, his voice cutting through the noise. "Y'all ready for this?" The audience roared its approval, and Katt launched into his set with the confidence of a man who had been doing this for over 20 years. His timing was perfect, his energy infectious, and within minutes he had the entire theater in the palm of his hand. "You know what I love about coming home to Atlanta?" Katt said, pacing the stage with practiced ease. "Y'all the only city where I can talk about my problems and you laugh instead of calling the police." The crowd lost it. In the production booth, HBO executives were already smiling, knowing they had comedy gold on their hands. For the first 40 minutes, everything was perfect. Katt was on fire, delivering joke after joke with the precision of a master craftsman. He talked about everything from social media to relationships to his own journey through fame and personal struggles, all with the raw honesty and sharp wit that had made him a legend. The cameras captured every moment, every laugh, every perfectly timed pause. This was going to be the special that reminded everyone why Katt Williams was considered one of the greatest comedians of his generation. Then, during a bit about family dynamics, something caught Katt's attention. It was subtle at first, just a sound that didn't quite fit with the laughter filling the theater. Katt's trained ear, honed by years of reading audiences, picked up on something different coming from the back left section of the venue. Someone was crying. Not the good kind of crying that sometimes happened during emotional comedy. This was different. This was pain. Katt tried to stay focused on his set, but his eyes kept drifting to that section of the theater. During a story about his grandmother, he spotted her. A young African-American woman, maybe 25 years old, sitting alone near the back exit. While everyone around her was laughing, she was sobbing quietly into her hands. Most performers would have ignored it. The show must go on, as they say. But Katt had never been most performers. Hold up, Katt said suddenly, stopping mid-joke and walking to the edge of the stage. The laughter died down as the audience sensed something was happening. In the production booth, director Marcus Johnson grabbed his headset. "What's he doing? Is this part of the bit?" "I don't know," the producer replied nervously. "This isn't in the script." Katt shielded his eyes from the stage lights and peered into the audience. "Ma'am in the back there, in the blue shirt, you okay?" The theater fell completely silent. 4,000 people turned to look at the woman Katt was addressing. She looked up in shock, tears streaming down her face, clearly mortified to suddenly be the center of attention. "I'm sorry," she called out, her voice barely audible. "I should go." No, don't go," Katt said, his voice gentle but carrying across the theater. "Talk to me. What's wrong?" The HBO executives were having heart attacks. This wasn't scripted. This wasn't part of the show. This was a deviation that could ruin the entire special. "Katt," the director's voice came through his earpiece. "We need to keep rolling. We're on a schedule here." But Katt wasn't listening to his earpiece anymore. He was looking at this woman, and something in her pain was calling to something in him. "You know what?" Katt said, turning back to the audience. "I'ma do something I've never done before." He set the microphone down on its stand and walked off the stage. The theater erupted in confused murmurs as Katt made his way through the crowd toward the back of the venue. Security guards moved to intercept him, but he waved them off. "Sir, you can't leave the stage," a security guard said. "We're in the middle of filming." "Watch me," Katt replied, continuing toward the woman. In the production booth, chaos reigned. "What do we do?" someone asked. "Do we keep filming?" "Keep the cameras rolling," Marcus decided. "We might be able to edit this out later." Katt reached the woman's row and gently asked the people sitting next to her to let him through. They moved, and Katt sat down beside her, ignoring the thousands of eyes watching him. "What's your name, sweetheart?" he asked softly. "Denise," she whispered through her tears. "Denise Patterson. Nice to meet you, Denise." "I'm Katt, but you probably already knew that." His voice was gentle, caring, the same voice he used with his own children. "Now, tell me what's got you so upset." Denise looked around at all the people staring at them. "I can't, not here. There's too many people." "You're right," Katt said, standing up. "Come with me." He offered her his hand, and after a moment's hesitation, she took it. Together, they walked out of the theater, leaving behind 4,005. Confused audience members and a production crew in complete panic. They ended up in a quiet hallway outside the theater, where Katt found 2 chairs and sat down across from Denise. "Now," he said, "what's really going on?" Denise broke down completely. Through her tears, she told Katt about her 8-year-old daughter, Mia, who was in the hospital fighting leukemia. She had come to the show because she'd won the tickets in a radio contest, and thought laughing might help her forget her problems for a few hours. "But I couldn't stop thinking about her," Denise sobbed. "She's so little and she's so scared, and I can't do anything to help her. I feel so helpless." "Where is she now?" Katt asked. "Children's Health Care of Atlanta. She's been there for 2 months. The doctors say—" Denise couldn't finish the sentence. Katt was quiet for a moment, processing what he'd heard. Then he pulled out his phone. "What's the doctor's name?" he asked. "Dr. Sarah Martinez." "But why?" "Because I'm about to make some calls," Katt said, already dialing. "And tomorrow you and I are going to visit Mia together." Meanwhile, back in the theater, the audience was getting restless. The HBO executives were calculating how much money this delay was costing. Security guards were trying to figure out if they should go find Katt or wait for him to return. 20 minutes later, Katt walked back into the theater alone. The audience erupted in applause, but he could see the worry on the faces of the production team. He picked up the microphone and looked out at the crowd. "You're probably wondering what just happened," he said. "Well, let me tell you something. That woman, Denise, she's dealing with something that puts all of our problems in perspective. Her little girl is fighting for her life in the hospital right now." The theater was completely silent. Now, I know HBO paid a lot of money for this special, and y'all paid good money for your tickets. But sometimes life interrupts our plans, and when it does, we got to decide what's more important, the show or the person. Katt paused, looking directly into one of the cameras. "I chose the person. I'll always choose the person. And if that costs me this special, so be it." The audience began to applaud slowly at first, then building to a thunderous ovation that lasted for over 2 minutes. The next day, Katt kept his promise. He and Denise walked into the pediatric oncology ward of Children's Health Care of Atlanta, carrying balloons, toys, and something more valuable than any gift: hope. 8-year-old Mia was small and frail, but her eyes lit up when she saw Katt. "Are you really Katt Williams?" she whispered. "I am. And I hear you're really Mia the Brave." For the next 3 hours, Katt sat with Mia, telling her jokes, playing games, and making her laugh in a way she hadn't laughed in months. He also quietly arranged for the hospital's comedy therapy program to be fully funded for the next 5 years. The HBO special aired 6 months later, including the unscripted moment when Katt left the stage. The network kept it in because, as one executive said, it showed something more valuable than comedy. It showed humanity. But the real ending to the story came 2 years later, when a healthy, cancer-free Mia appeared as a surprise guest at Katt's next HBO special, running onto the stage to give him a hug that brought the entire audience to tears. "You know what I learned that night in Atlanta?" Katt told the audience as he held Mia's hand. "Comedy is about making people laugh, but life is about making people matter. And sometimes the best thing you can do is walk away from what you're supposed to do and do what you're called to do." The special won an Emmy, but Katt always said his real award was watching Mia grow, up healthy and strong, sending him videos of her school plays and report cards, because sometimes the most important moments happen when we're brave enough to stop performing and start caring, when we choose human connection over professional obligation, and discover that the real show is the one happening in someone else's heart.